is a tortuous household. I cannot take it anymore.
That's too bad. I like it here. At least I can play jazz whenever I feel like it.
Doing that horrid music, I could never comprehend why you fancy it.
What's wrong with her?
She has been that way since we arrived in this dreadful house.
I've had enough of this place. I have fixed the oven in the sink, replaced the light bulbs, and plugged the leaks, and even broomed the whole house. This is definitely my personal hell. I'm being punished.
Why would you be punished?
Well, you must know by now that we're not exactly here for good deeds.
That good that you mentioned is all subjective. It is your understanding of good that gives meaning to the word. If one believes their actions fit into that meaning, then there's no need to be punished at all.
What did you do, Charles? Please, enlighten us.
I believe someone is trying to teach me a lesson for not achieving my given task. I thought that my disciples would finish it, but I guess it doesn't work that way.
What task?
I guess it wouldn't hurt anyone if I told you my story. Besides, it's not like we are getting out of here anytime soon.
Well, you can have it.
Some people don't really get to understand that we humans sometimes have a bigger aim, a divine projection for a future, to doing certain affairs that we are naturally bound to doing so. But even if they aren't aware of this, or simply don't understand, since the moment we came out of our mother's aching wombs, our destiny has already been sealed, just as mine was. I was fated to do something great. That was to form a sect that would cleanse this world, making it pure just like in the beginning, and accepting that this task in my humble hands, and I was overjoyed to pursue this fate. The Manson family cut it. We had the intention to operate in California, and even though it all started as an unconscious games and entertainment, we rapidly fathomed that we could do a lot more, such as purifying this rotten and wicked society, in which the natural order of the world and life had already been lost in its original significance. By using certain substances, we could be ourselves, greater beings. We could do things we wouldn't in a normal state of mind. And that's why we benefited from the use of these substances. Sacred, we call them, before appropriating our favors to humanity. Our journey began at nighttime during the night of August. It was the year 1969, and I remember it elusively, like it had only been yesterday, but those days are now gone. The streets were hollow, and we took advantage of that. We forced our way into this huge and pathetic house, and we made our own presence fulfill our own desire and euphoria. I could never reveal the motivation that led us into stealing the vitality of those 5 human beings. But you must believe me when I tell you it was all done by a higher purpose. It was the genesis of what we call the Helter Skelter, which was our first crusade, the start of our sacred war. After killing them, we then wrote infamous words with their own scarlet fluids on one of the walls. If we were going to be in the middle of this sacred war, at least we had to do it in our own way. We make sure to use references that only our own cult and members of it could understand. But I can reveal that the Beatles were a big inspiration to our art. They didn't get it, but they never do. They couldn't see what was coming. It was the dawn of a war between races, and someone had to start it. Someone must take responsibility. They condemned me for doing things that should have been done. They thought my doings were illicit and clearly mistaken. I was even called a sociopath. Now I pity them. Poor ignorant who couldn't tell that I was just doing them a favor. They sentenced me to life imprisonment. Some of my pupils, the ones that couldn't be linked to my crimes, kept visiting me. They fought for my innocence in the public spotlight, and I took that with me into the grave. They spread my ideas. They made sure of making my voice a reality, and I firmly believe that my rhetoric was trespassed through my generation. I know that I couldn't fulfill my goal. I failed. But I know I just start everything. I start this war, and I believe someone will do what I couldn't.
So, like you said, if you're here, that means your pupils, disciples, or whatever you want to call them, didn't succeed in that task either. Maybe your fate wasn't written in the wall after all.
You are a murderer!
Wait, you all there! It is written all over your faces. You show no fear nor judgment. The only reason for that will be to have done the same. I need to get out of here.
Don't you dare point your finger at me. If you are here with us, it must be for a reason. Maybe you're not as innocent as you claim to be.
Liar! You have no right to condemn me. Not like I did.
Wait. Charles says he overreacted. But please tell us, who condemned you?
Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. That is a good verse, I'm not going to lie. Anyway, people are used to lying very often. Don't forget that. That is a shame, don't you think? A waste of rhymes, I shall say. Long time ago, a man's word was more relevant than anything. Today, well, it's just an amount of lies. Andrew Borden, my father, and Abby Borden, my stepmother, received both 11 and 19 blows respectively. But what actually happened? That is a long story. A story with no lies, I emphasize. Andrew and Abby Borden dwelt on Fall River, Massachusetts. My father, may he rest in peace, was a successful businessman, so we had been a considerably wealthy family. Andrew raised two daughters, Emma and me, almost by himself, since Abby, the woman who reconquered his heart, never helped that much.
What about your real mother?
She breathed her last when I was a young girl. I don't remember that much about her, nor even her eyes staring at me every night, nor her voice trying to lull me to sleep. Anyway, don't feel bad about me. That incident doesn't strike me as hard as it did back then. You remember what I said about people, right? Some may say that I despised my stepmother. Well, notwithstanding she would have deserved that, I never mistreated her. At least, not the way she did to my family. However, she was a perfectly splendid woman, because that is what everyone said, right? There's nothing worse than a dissembling good-hearted person attempting to enter a demolished family. I'm not here to tell false statements. Emma and I constantly argued with our father over financial matters which he was the main reason of, but she always got away with it somehow. It was always about that woman. Every time I saw her arriving home with full baskets, new garments, and expensive dresses, felt like this monster entered my brain and tortured me. It made me suffer mentally and physically. The only way to stop it was releasing the monster with thoughts of what it wanted. But not all thoughts can be precious, can they? On the morning of August 4, 1892, I was occupying myself at the barn doing the unvaried work alone, since Emma was not at home. Did I mention that Emma and I lived our whole lives in our parents' homestead? I'm pretty used to hear that's a pity, so it will be better if you save your comments. The life of the unmarried isn't a misfortune. Neither Emma nor I need a big shot to flourish. As I was saying, I was at the barn. When the clock struck 12, I put down the tool I was using and came back to the house. When I recounted myself with a pool of blood, I was appalled. My father was slumping on the couch with his face nearly split in two. Between my screams, I called Bridget, our housekeeper. She went upstairs desperately looking for Abby, which was also dead. Face down the floor, but there was no face left. No head. Ironic, don't you think? Suspicion soon fell on me. Prosecutors accused me of murdering my father and mother. Can you imagine? The trial began a year after, June 5, 1893. 2 weeks later, I was acquitted. But although I was now an unframed heiress rather than a convicted murderess, the media continued to portray me as the perpetrator. And my story is still remembered by that infamous rhyme, which is obviously a lie. They know for sure that the best lie is the one wrapped in truth.
What happened to your sister?
After I was acquitted, we bought a lovely house. But just like the rest of the town, she turned on me, as she didn't share my lifestyle. Emma moved out of the house, and we remained estranged from each other.
So, what are you doing here? If you didn't do it, then who did it?
You know, I read somewhere that when we experience a harsh episode, our brains suppress it. Maybe it was you all along, Lizzie.
I think I will remember if I had three my brains.
Hey, it was just a possibility.
Could you stop playing that annoying music?
If you lived during my time, I would have killed you for saying that.
What does that even mean?
If you want to understand why jazz is so dear to me, then you must know my story. They never caught me, they never saw me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what our Arlenians and their foolish police call the X-Men. My journey started on May 23, 1918. I was at 4901 Magnolia Street at night when I saw a charming and alluring house, which seemed to be calling to me. I went there and found myself an axe on the shed by the house. I figured if it were just out for everyone to see, might as well put it to use. I found a way into the house and then into the bedrooms, and I saw them sleeping, oblivious to their surroundings. Joseph and Catherine Maggio. It's insane how human instinct works. I saw them and couldn't help myself. I just went chop chop chop. After it was done, I knew there was no turning back. At that moment, I decided I wanted to become a serial killer and give New Orleans denizens a taste of their own axes. A month later, on June 28, I went to Louis Bessemer and Harriet Lowe's house, and once again, all quiet and then axe by the shed. The couple met their fate. Business was going great until I got the news. That milk drinker Louis survived my attack. It couldn't stay like this. I needed to train my heart and soul in the ways of my art. So I sold my soul to the devil, and on August 5th, I went for Anna Schneider's head. Beautiful chick, that one. It's a shame I did it, but she didn't like no jazz, so she had to go. Jazz was synonym for party, and I love to party. Days after the last incident, on August 10, I assaulted an old man by the name of Joseph Romano. His snooty nieces saw me and told the police how I looked. Too bad their Uncle Joseph got what was coming to him. Then, on March 10, 1919, it was Rose and Charles Cortimiglia's turn, and their 2-year-old daughter. I only tried to kill a child because these two milk drinkers were no fans of jazz. What doomed child deserves to roam this world without good examples? In the turn of events, only the child died. Suffice to say, I was pretty bummed down after this. I mean, I was killing people at night while they slept, and my success rate is less than many rookie crybaby serial killers, but the police wasn't even close to catching me. So, to even the field, on March 13, I sent them a letter, not just to boast to their faces, but also to propose an innocent game. I suggested that on the next Tuesday night, at midnight, I was going to pass by New Orleans, and whoever had a jazz band in full swing at the time would be spared in my infinite mercy. Of course, I mentioned my close relationship with the Angel of Death. Since I sold my soul, I figured I would have a little fun. And guess what? On that night, I heard there was jazz music all over New Orleans. And the best thing is that I wasn't even there. I was on vacation, and you don't even know how much I laughed that night. After this, I continued my killing spree. Steve Boca, Sarah Lohman, and Mike Pepitone. But of course, you already know how that ended. Some time passed and I was getting tired of this business. Besides, everyone was saying I needed a new hobby. So I retired to go play cards with His Satanic Majesty.
How does he look like?
The devil? I can assure you, he has no tails nor horns. Now you comprehend why I'm so fond of jazz, right?
I guess I do, but I still consider it hideous.
Only some old people despise jazz. How old are you?
How dare you? You must never ask a woman her age. Where are your manners?
Just tell yourself already.
I never said I was going to tell you anything.
You always.
Come on. Well, okay, if you insist.
Over the decades, men and society have always looked down on women. However, they do not know that we are just as brutal as them, or even worse, just like I was. Up until this day, I was known as the world's most prolific female serial killer. Some recognize me as the Blood Countess or Countess Dracula, but that is only because they do not know my real name, nor my history. I am Erzsébet Báthory, also known as Elizabeth Báthory. When people think of me, they can only see blood, narcissism, torture, and sadism. But they cannot even fathom what is behind those features, what made me into the fear monster of the Kingdom of Hungary. I've always been problematic, I admit it. But aren't we all? My childhood was far from perfect. Yes, I come from a noble family, received the best education, and therefore speak 4 languages. And honestly, in the 16th century, I could not have asked for more. At least I was not a servant. However, I suffer from health issues, epilepsy, not anymore. Perhaps since my parents were first cousins, but you know, that was really common between noble families to preserve the royalty of the blood and all of that. I saw all kind of atrocities which did not offend me. It was quite the opposite. It would only bring me joy. Many say I was doomed from the beginning. I can really say. After that, in the year 1575, I married the Count Frank Nadasky. He was known as the Black Knight of Hungary, who gifted me with a magnificent castle in Katsiye. Sadly, today is in ruins. He was a great man and a warrior, the father of my children, and we also shared the same passion for violence. He introduced me into that way to feel, teaching me the basics. And after a time, like all creatures, I evolved. I was no longer a torturer, but a murderer. Thanks to my accomplice, Anna Darvodia. It is then when I found my true nature and purpose. Under her tutelage, I fulfill my deepest and darkest desires with servant girls. Things were getting out of control, and the town and its priests were suspicious. No commoner hands could ever touch me, the Countess. Thus, I kept doing as I pleased. Several years passed, and in 1604, my dear Ferenc was taken from me, putting an end to our 29-year marriage. The pressure of taking over an extensive empire, it was just too much. It was beyond my capacity, and I could only think of those hundreds of girls patrolling my castle waiting to meet their bloody destiny. Then Anna left me too, and I was all alone since my children were grown and married. All alone except for the devs piling up at the doors. I had to do something. In order to solve this, I opened a finishing school for noble women. The attendance fees were all I needed to pay the debts and fill the battery coffers. But I made a terrible mistake when I practiced over them. Their nobility, it was just so appealing. I couldn't think straight. Then their parents found out, and I came up with lame justifications, as one girl was suicidal and killed the other ones. My actions came to the king's ears, and His Majesty sent George Thurso, a friend of Ferenc, but he was no friend, no. He was a traitor. I cannot say more. It's just too grim. Many claim I've killed over 600 people, beaten and tortured them, driving needles into their nails, disposed them of body parts. And honestly, at the end, it is not my place to tell otherwise. All I know is that women can be just as brutal of men if they want to. They can be whatever they want to be. But I wish I had been born a man. I would have killed thousands in battle, taken over countries, burned witches. I would have been a hero.
So I guess the matter is solved. We're imprisoned here for our indecorous deeds.
But we cannot be here alone, can we? I mean, it's not like we're the only murderers that ever existed.
Leave me out of this, okay? I did nothing wrong. I'm sure the one who sent us here must have misplaced me.
What's going on?